Is the Trojans' homecoming game this Saturday against Cal a trap game? That's what's coming up next on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you are watching on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, I just like to remind everybody we are free, and I want to thank you so much for coming along for the ride. Hope you're enjoying the show. For those of you who already have, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Thank you so much. It means a lot. For those of you who haven't, it would mean a lot if you did. So thanks ahead. And for all of you viewers, I've got some good news. Hang on to the end of the show. It's going to be a short show tonight, end of the week. But I got some analytics feedback on Locked On USC, and it's all possible due to you. So stick around. I want to go over those numbers with you. But before we get to that, Rick Neuheisel over there on CBS Sports Network has said that USC should be on upset alert at home this weekend. They host the Cal Berkeley Bears, 7:30 p.m., and you can actually watch it on TV this week. It'll be on ESPN. So that got me thinking, is this a trap game? How could USC, a 21-point favorite, coming home after basically not playing at the Coliseum for almost a month, October 8th, I think was the last time they played a game there. How can this be a trap game? Well, I guess there could be some lackadaisical attitudes on the team, maybe. But USC's, they came off a bye week, and then they went to Tucson following their loss to Utah. They got the win. It wasn't clean, at least on defense. Their performance wasn't very clean. But you got to give a lot of that credit to, the Arizona's quarterback, their offense. Offensively, they're a good team. Jaden DeLora and his group of one-handed wide receivers making really some incredible receptions throughout the game. They deserve some credit for making USC's defense look as bad as it did, at least statistically. And yeah, we've gone over that already. Everyone's aware that USC they're dealing with some injuries, and there's a lot of missed tackles, and guys kind of, I don't want to say playing out of position, but having to adjust from where they might have played more frequently earlier in the year. I guess that's a good way of putting it, right? So, again, the Trojans are back home now after that month-long stretch, and I guess maybe at least a lot of USC fans are looking at it as Cal and Colorado. I've made the argument I don't think they're very good teams. Is this basically two more bye weeks at home before USC travels to Pasadena, travels to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA, where both schools could potentially be 9-1 when that happens, and that will be November 19th. It's a big weekend in the Pac-12. Oregon and Utah also play. So, all you're hoping for, really, and I guess why this could be a trap game and why next Friday's game could also be a potential trap game is USC already looking ahead to the UCLA game. It's understandable, but, this is where the coaching staff has to really kind of get in everybody's view, so to speak, make sure that they're only looking one game at a time. Don't let them look too far ahead. And here's something else. Why USC might think that they might have an easy time of this game. Okay, I'm not saying they are thinking this way. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, devil's advocate. Cal doesn't have a quarterback like a Jaden DeLora or Utah's Cam Rising. So USC's defense could say, all right, well, we don't have all that extra pressure of having to try and contain and corral a mobile quarterback who can make plays, as Alex Grinch would say, off schedule. What that means is use his legs to extend plays, extend drives, just make life miserable for a defense and for the defensive coordinator. In fact, this Cal might be the perfect remedy for USC's defense that has kind of been, under the microscope. They haven't looked great, and for all the reasons we've talked about, injuries and poor tackling. But Cal's quarterback, Jack Plummer, he's already been sacked 25 times through their first 8 games this year. That's over 3 per game. And we know USC can get to the quarterback. At least, they were getting to him before these last couple of games, where they still they've still been able to get some sacks, but they haven't been as proficient. In fact, it's almost looked like Tuiapulotu has hit a wall. But you got to give credit to the opposing team's game planning against him. And it's going to be up to the rest of the team to execute and to perform better. And Thule talked about this week at practice. So we'll see if his words spread amongst the locker room, at least on defense. So again, because Cal's offensive line and their offense have surrendered 25 sacks, USC can get to the quarterback. This could be one of those games where the defense could bounce back and kind of reestablish themselves, so to speak, down the home stretch these last 4 regular season games. So look, I'm not trying to throw a whole lot of shade and disrespect at Cal's team this year, but let's just be honest, that they shouldn't pose a serious threat to USC, even for an injured defense that could still be without Eric Gentry and Raylan Goforth, at least at the just at the linebacker level. Thursday after practice via Zoom, that we always talk to Riley after practice on Thursday via the Zoom meetings. He kind of hinted that the guys are getting close, or at least some of them, and they had a good week. So who knows, that maybe 1 or 2 guys will be back. We'll see. You should know by now that Lincoln doesn't give up anything when it comes to the injury report. And all I can do is hint. If I was to make my judgment call, I don't think you'll see Eric Gentry. You could possibly see Raylan Goforth. I think Raylan has a better chance of playing. Again, I'm coming at this from the perspective, you don't need Eric Gentry to win this game. You'd like to have him out there, but let's get him healthy or healthier so we can have him. If he needs to play 1 game before UCLA, get him back for Colorado so he can kind of get his feet under him, so to speak. Look, no one who's been out so far on the injured list, they don't need to play this week, and that's what I was just kind of talking about. With Raylan, maybe we've seen Shane Lee perform with 1 hand. Maybe Raylan can do it as well. But again, if tackling is one of the issues the team is trying to work on, maybe having Raylan sit out another week would be beneficial. We saw how Shane struggled with 1 hand. So again, what you're hoping for, and maybe this is where Rick Neuheisel was coming from, is you just don't want the team to have a laissez-faire type of an attitude or approach toward this game, because Cal's offense, statistically, they're terrible, horrible. 23 points per game. USC's defense gives up just over 24, I think 24 and a half points per game. So it's Cal's weakness versus, actually, even though USC's defense hasn't looked great, they still don't give up a lot of points. This week, Alex Grinch, after Wednesday's practice, he had some quotes that I thought were brutally honest, and that's I love that about him, about any coach. No, no, don't BS me. Just give it to me straight. I mean, when I used to coach high school basketball, that's how I used to coach. I'm going to look you straight in the eye. I'm going to tell you how I feel. Might not feel good. I'm going to let you know it's not personal. And I put my arm around your shoulder and I explain to you why it wasn't personal and why we just need to get better. And players will appreciate that. And especially if you treat everybody the same, from starter to backup to walk on. As long as there's consistency, players love discipline. So, with regards to getting into the backfield and not completing the play like we saw against Arizona, Alex Grinch said, "quote Close is a cancer," and I mean that in a very dramatic sense. You can kind of hold on to that and say, "Well, we'll be closer next time," which means we'll inevitably make the play. That's kind of been the story over the last 2 weeks. End quote. The only reason we can sleep at night right now, and the only reason we won the game the other night, is because we played hard, and that gives you a shot. Now, playing hard is not designed to overcome us; it's to overcome your opponent. There's too much of that going on right now. End quote. So, if you remember earlier this week, I gave out my grades, gave an A for effort. Coach Grinch agrees, but as far as productivity, they've got to produce. They've got to do better. Bottom line. Close is, you can get close, but you got to make the play. Otherwise, close is good in what? Horseshoes and hand grenades? All right. So last year when USC and Cal played up in Berkeley, that was I'll call it the mutiny on the Bounty game, where USC lost, and that's how they finished their season, 4-8. Well, one last quote from Alex Grinch. We've got to be honest about Cal. He's referring to Cal. Their excitement level coming in here on Saturday and having that, and USC has to have the understanding in terms of we're going to get their best version of them. We expect that. We're going to make sure we give them the best version of us, and we haven't done that in a long time. End quote. So this is where Alex Grinch comes up with a little bit of the coach speaks. He kind of believes Justin Wilcox can upset this USC team. He doesn't. Maybe he's not aware that Justin Wilcox he's not very successful against top 10 teams. And USC is ranked number 9 right now. So this Saturday, USC is going for win number 8 on the season. There's no Lincoln Riley on the horizon. He will actually be on the sideline this year, as opposed to last year's 4-8 game. And he knows how important the month of November is. And that's why Saturday will not turn into a trap game, or at least it better not be, right? Okay, so Cal is a 21-point underdog for a reason. They're not very good. So this episode is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, which is the easiest place to spice up your college football season. And I do want to emphasize how easy it is to get started. And it's easy to play while you're watching your favorite team play. Not just USC, by the way. Underdog Fantasy is easy to play, and it's available in over 30 states. All you have to do is just pick between 2 and 5 players across any team, not just USC, and decide if they will finish higher or lower. It's a pick 'em. So will Travis Dye finish higher than 150 yards for the game? You pick higher or lower. Will Caleb Williams throw for more than 300 yards? You pick higher or lower. It's that simple. And you do that between 2 and 5 different players across any team. So again, it's one of the easiest fantasy to play games out there, and you can win cold, hard cash in a single game. All you have to do is sign up with the promo code Locked On. That's one word, Locked On. And Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, you're going to get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or the Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code locked on, one word. Get in the college football pick'em action today. How special would this USC team be if they had a designated special teams coach, as opposed to the coaching by committee that they do right now with Doherty and Luke Heward and Kyle McDonald? Well, for some Trojan fans, this is like a real sore spot. So we're going to talk about it for a couple of minutes here because those guys seem to be waiting for USC to lose a game due to poor special teams play, and they want to blame it on the fact that Coach Riley likes to have his special teams coached by committee, as opposed to having a dedicated special teams coach. So on Thursday, following practice on Zoom, when he's talking with the media, Riley was asked about the question. And quote, "I don't believe in a singular special teams coordinator, not with the current limit on staff." Riley said he's always going to go with a full staff of assistant coaches who are coaching the entire practice rather than just running one or two periods. So I get that. That makes sense. Now, he went on to say that if the NCAA relaxes those rules on staff size, then he'd go back and reevaluate that. In other words, what he's saying is if USC is willing to pay for it and we can increase the staff size, sure, I'll bring one on. We'll see. In the past, USC has used a considerable amount of time. They spent a considerable amount of time on special teams during practice when we were allowed to actually get out there and watch the entire time. And I can tell you right now, it really makes no discernible difference. People they remember what just happened recently, and they saw the last game against Arizona. Your place kicker, he missed a 39-yarder and a 56-yard field goal. He made a 45-yarder. They see in the past some kickoff returns getting some good returns by the opposition. Well, maybe they're not paying attention because if the kicks aren't going through the back of the end zone or for touchbacks, the short kickoffs recently actually have been covered very well. So, I don't know. Would having a John Baxter on Lincoln Riley staff make a difference? John Baxter, was a full-time special teams coach for Clay Helton. I don't think it really made a difference. And John Baxter is considered one of the best in the business. Last year they had a special teams coach. Oh gosh, why is it Sean Snyder? Gosh, forgive me, coach, who was a maven at Kansas State, coaching under his father, the legendary Bill Snyder. Didn't make a difference last year. I don't know if anybody would have made a difference last year. So, no offense to Coach Sean Snyder. However, people think about teams throughout the history across the country who have had good special teams coaches. You think back to Virginia Tech with Shane Beamer and Frank Beamer as the head coach. That's very true. They always would have great special teams play, but sometimes you emphasize having great special teams play when you lack the other areas, like on offense or defense. So you have to make plays in other areas. At USC, or at least with Lincoln Riley, I think his philosophy is, and whether it's arrogance or it's just his supreme confidence that his approach to having coaches spending all their time coaching, that's the way he wants to do it. However, you can't say, but if we can expand our staff roster, I'll go back and reevaluate it, because you're kind of contradicting. That's why my old 10th grade English teacher, I'll never forget you, Mr. Zimmerman, he always told me to use the term however to transition, because whenever you say but, you're going to contradict what you just said, and nothing good ever comes from the but. And that's how you remember the rule. Always use however, even though but is perfectly acceptable. Nevertheless, I digress big time, right? So we were talking about special teams here. Again, I don't think having a full-time special teams coach is the answer this season. Would it have made a difference in their 1-point loss on the road at Utah? No, it would not have. Um, that special teams wasn't the reason USC lost that game. USC lost that game because defensively they couldn't get off the field, and real quickly the Pac-12 brought a 12th man. How to get that out of there. So, look, I think waiting around for an "I told you so" moment is kind of stupid. And I'm not calling Trojan fans stupid. I'm just saying, for those of you who believe Lincoln Riley should have a full-time special teams coach, and you're wasting your time sitting around just waiting for that opportunity to pounce, I think that's stupid. And no, that's not the grumpy old man wagging his finger at you guys. I bring that up because some friends of mine have called me grumpy old man, and I can get that way sometimes, I will admit. Like I said, I just think it's dumb hoping for something bad to happen. That's bad karma. That's bad juju. Don't live like that. Okay. Locked on USC. We come at you 5 times a week. And like I said, it's going to be a short show. And I'm going to give you 5 things, since we come at you 5 times a week, 5 things of why USC will win this game against Cal. Number 1, Caleb Williams. He's going to throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. My gosh, if he throws for 500 yards, that's what I almost spit out. That would be amazing, but I don't think that would be necessary. By the way, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns for Caleb Williams, that would actually be kind of pedestrian when you go back and look at his last couple of games. So 300 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air for Caleb Williams. Second thing, Kyle Ford, I think, is going to lead the team this week in receiving yards. He'll go over 100 again, back-to-back games. Last week, Taj Washington led in yardage with 2, as well as 2 touchdowns. This week, I think Kyle Ford will lead in yardage. I'm not going to go how many touchdowns he'll get. I do think he'll get at least 1 more. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. Tuiapulotu. I think he's going to bounce back, and he's going to get 3 sacks. The team as a whole is going to have 5. I'm giving Tuli credit for 3. I mentioned earlier, Cal gives up 3 per game. So this is a ripe opportunity for USC's defense, not just to be close, but to get the job done. I also think the USC defenses are going to secure 2 interceptions on Saturday. That's just a hunch. And then number 5, the 5th thing, the defense as a whole. They're going to be able to contain Cal's prolific offense of 23 points per game, who couldn't even be Colorado. They're going to hold them to 350 or less yards of offense. And I've gone on record. You got to head on over to wearesc.com for my Thursday's yay or nay column, but I've got USC winning this game handedly. All right, so we're out of here for the week. However, before we leave, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I got some feedback from the powers that be at the Locked On Network. And like I said, I got to thank you, the viewers, because you were responsible for these numbers. So thank you. It means a whole lot to me. and it's going to keep me going to want to get better and do better. So I was told that anything over a 30% watch through on the YouTube analytics that's considered good. What the Locked On College shows at the top show for the Locked On College is 42%. Okay, keep in mind that Locked On USC is relatively new. I've got less than, I think, 80 episodes recorded. I've already got it. This show, because of you, the viewers, is giving us a 40% watch through. In other words, the viewers are watching it. They are staying and 40% of the viewers are sticking around to watch the entire show. That's amazing. Keep it going. I'd like to see that number go, 60, 70%, just because I'm hoping you're watching the entire show. Nevertheless, thank you again. Keep it up. I appreciate it. Locked On USC. Look, we're still growing. Keep spreading the word. I appreciate it. And as you know, 5 days a week. As long as you keep watching, I'll keep bringing some content for you. I'll find something unique, new. Try and keep this show different from all those other shows that are out there, because there's a lot of competition out there. But you know where to make your first listen every day, and that's Locked On USC. So I'll be back next week. We'll break down this weekend's game, USC versus Cal. But until then, everyone, you know what to do, right?